So today we'll have a webinar about having the best year ever. And I think we all desire to have a good start to a year. But today I want to delve deeper and see how can we make this year, despite having a new year amidst very difficult circumstances. We are still fighting a pandemic that seems to be evolving from time to time. We don't know when the end of this will be. We are getting into an election year that comes with uncertainties. And we don't know how this year is going to be. So how can we work towards having the best year, even if all the odds seems to be stacked against us? And this is not just about 2022. It's basically how can we have the best year every year? So whatever we are talking about here should basically be how we can set out and have the best year every year. And I'll start with a short story about myself. The first time I thought about quitting my career. Maybe I should start with when I started my career. I graduated in the year 2000 at University of Nairobi with a Bachelor of Commerce, and I specialized in insurance. I was fortunate to get a job before I graduated. My first employer was ICA Lion. Then I moved to a company called Invesco Assurance, and then I moved to Britain. The first time I ever thought about leaving employment was 2009. I thought I wanted to go into business, but didn't know a lot about what I wanted to do. So I remember registering a company and doing, named it something branding solutions, because my friend was doing branding and I thought I could do what she was doing. And I actually left employment in 2017. That is a goal that took 8 years to accomplish. Now, is this familiar to you? Are there certain goals that you want to achieve, but they end up taking a very, very long time? Then you're in the right place, because that's what we'll be looking at. Every new year gives us an opportunity to reset, to start the year fresh, to make new resolutions, to come up with new plans. And this year is no different. So we feel that the new year gives us hope. But what we know for a fact is that just because the calendar has turned does not make it easier for us to achieve those goals. So what is it that we can do to ensure that the goals we set, if they are the right goals, they do not take 8 years like my goal took to actually accomplish? So many people make resolutions, but many resolutions fail by the third week of January, and definitely few see February. But some are fortunate, they actually make it to mid-year, but somehow they don't get to the end of the year. So what we'll be looking at today is how can we start well and maintain the pace throughout the middle, which sometimes tends to be very messy, and actually come out of the year having accomplished what we actually set out to accomplish. So that's what we are going to talk about today. So today, actually, the content is not my content. I actually read a book called Your Best Year Ever. Maybe Nova, you can take for us that. Your Best Year Ever by a gentleman called Michael Hyatt. Michael Hyatt is a Christian entrepreneur who is well known in the world for helping organizations and individuals to be productive. So he helps people evaluate how they can do the best out of the resources they have, and also plan their time, plan their work to enable them not just spend so much time in their work, but actually focus on all aspects of life. So we'll be looking at all aspects of life. I do retirement planning from a holistic perspective, and even the goal setting that we'll be talking about today will basically be about that. So one of the things that Michael Hyatt has done is he has a free evaluation tool. So we'll share the link. You can actually go and check out how are you doing in different aspects of life. So there's a link that Nova again will type for us, bestyearever.me/life score. And that is somewhere you can actually go and do an evaluation of where you are, sort of reflect on where you are, even as we set goals regarding where you want to go. Why is this tool important, and why would I recommend that you do this? Is because one, it's a diversified tool. It's not just looking at one aspect of life, which could be financial or career, because life is multifaceted. It's not one area only. And then for you to be able to plan for a new year, you basically need to reflect on where you are right now. So clarity on where you are will enable you to move forward and to actually measure progress as you move forward. So it's important to see where you are. And then once you know where you are, then it becomes easier to focus on specific areas so that you can improve every domain of life. Now, when it comes to goal setting, it is basically a process. It's a process that Michael Hyatt puts into 5 categories, into 5 groups. So in the course of this webinar, we look at 5 areas that would enable you to set goals and be able to achieve them. And these are, the first one is overcoming your doubt. Many of us, even as we set goals, sometimes we set goals when we are not sure that we'll be able to accomplish these goals. For instance, weight loss goal, many of us do that. I want to lose 10 kilograms, but I'm not really sure I'll be able to do that. That in itself sets you up for failure. The other thing that we need to look at is closure on your past. Sometimes we've had difficult past and they keep affecting how we behave in future. If we don't have a closure on it, it will affect our future. Then the actual part of goal setting, there's a framework. There's a way you set goals that you'll be able to achieve. If you don't set SMART goals, then it will be very, very difficult to achieve those goals. But beyond setting good goals, there's one thing that keeps us going, and that is your motivation. What motivates you to go on when the pain, it gets painful, when it takes longer than you expected, when the hill is steeper than you anticipated. And that is basically your why behind the goals. What is your why? Why have you set a specific goal? And of course, there are implementation tactics that we can apply that would actually set up for success. So those are the 5 categories, the 5 sections that we will go through during this webinar. So we start with the first, and that is basically overcoming your doubts. You'll notice today we don't have slides. So just keep on listening. But there's one verse that is in Proverbs that basically describes that situation. And that verse is Proverbs 23, verse 7. It says, as a man thinks, so is he. If you think you will achieve your goals, you are likely to achieve your goals. But if you think you will not achieve your goals, you will definitely not achieve your goals. So what does this mean? If you believe in the possibilities of something, chances are you will succeed in that thing. And so it is with your goals. What do you believe about the goals you want to achieve this year? It is interesting to note that we normally don't do what we know, we actually do what we believe. So for instance, in the financial space, we know that we should spend less than we earn. We know that we should save money and we should invest money. But that's not what most of us do. Most of us believe we don't have money to save and we end up not saving. So what you believe is actually more important than what you know. We know that we should eat right, we know that we should exercise, but that's not necessarily what we do. We believe we will get to it later, we'll take care of these things later, and that is what we do. So it's important that you check yourself. What is it that you believe about the goals that you want to achieve? Because what you believe sets expectations. So for example, if you're in a difficult relationship and you're already thinking, I don't think this relationship will improve. Even as you set a goal to improve it, if you don't expect it to improve, you will actually believe that it will not improve. That will affect your perception. It will affect the actions that you take. If I believe that I will succeed in my goal, how I'll do it is very different from when I think it's a waste of time. Then the actions I take will definitely define the outcome that comes out of it. So if I give myself half-heartedly towards a goal, the outcome will not be as desired. And then what happens is that with the outcome, we get the reality. So it's what we call self-fulfilling prophecy. What you believe about your goals, if you don't believe you'll achieve them, if you believe you'll achieve them, chances are that is what will actually happen. So we need to be very, very careful about what we think about the goals. And later we'll come to see if you don't believe in a goal, then the best thing would be not to even set that goal in the first place because you're not going to give it your best. So I don't know if, Regina, you had shared the poll. At this point, probably we can ask people to participate in the poll.
Yes, let me launch it.
Yes, there's going to be a poll, which I believe it can take just a few minutes, a few seconds to do. Very simple questions, 4 simple questions. And that will probably collaborate with the research that has been done. So there's a research that has been done that says millennials usually set resolutions. Actually, 80% of millennials set resolutions. But about 70% of people who are about 65 years old and above think setting resolution is a waste of time. Why the discrepancy? Why is it that young people will set resolutions and older people will not set resolutions? And that could be as a result of many things. They probably have set resolution in the past, and by February they were not following their resolution. So they realize these things don't work. And the older people, so they think, why set goals which I'm just going to break? I'm not going to do anything about it. But the young people, probably they've not suffered the frustration, the disappointments. They are very energetic, they are very optimistic. And that is what, that's why probably they set the resolutions. So I would want to see from this group where we are, how many of us have set resolutions and which age group we belong, and we see whether we'll collaborate with that poll. So this brings us now to the second point, which is basically we need to have closure on our past. The experiences we've had with setting goals, with setting New Year's resolutions, how that has shaped us needs to be, we need to deal with it, and we need to ensure that we have had closure on that so that it doesn't affect us negatively in future. Because if you failed in the past and then you don't set goals in future, we know success does not happen by accident. Then you'll just, that will also be another self-fulfilling prophecy. So what do we need to do? We need to check at what we believe. Because remember, we said beliefs are very important. They're even more important than knowledge. So whatever you believe is what you're likely to do. So if you have limiting beliefs, these are things that set you up for failure, where you say, I don't think I can make it. I don't have the time. I don't have money. They're based on fear, maybe disappointment or failure that you had. If that is what you have, then that is what will guide your future. But we need to replace those limiting beliefs with what we call liberating beliefs. And these are beliefs that are based on success, on joy, on fulfillment. For instance, I've had a limiting belief for quite a while. And this belief was, I'm not good in technology. I don't like learning so much about technology. I struggle with it. That is a fact. But the belief that I can't serve my clients well, or I can't do well in technology, that's a limiting belief that would limit what I do. So there's technology around. I'll not make use of it, yet it could actually help me in my business. But at one point I had to change that belief. I'm still not very good at it, but I had to replace that with a liberating belief. And one of the liberating beliefs I have is, I may not be very good at technology, but that does not stop me from serving my clients with the latest technology. So what does that involve? For me, it involved engaging somebody to do my social media. I will provide the content, we'll discuss things, but since I'm not very good at doing it, somebody else will prepare a flyer and I'll be able to share it. It also takes the form of engaging a staff who will be able to bring that strength, what I am lacking. So today I have an assistant called Nova. For those who have not interacted with, Nova is my new assistant and he's helping me with that. I have somebody also who handles my social media. So it could have been a limiting belief for some time, and I probably wasted time not doing anything. But when I just shifted it, it is a fact I am not the best with technology, but that does not mean I can't use technology. I can revise that limiting belief and make it a liberating belief. So what is the limiting belief that you have? What is holding you back? Is it that I don't have time to do something? Yeah, you might not. You might actually be tied up. You don't have that free time. But then it doesn't mean that because right now you don't have the time, it doesn't mean you can't do that. Because there are other ways you can use. You can use money to free your time, and then you're able to do that which is important. it's important to know what is it that is limiting your actions. So once you know it, and probably I can use a scripture to give an example. Sometimes we have limiting beliefs because of lack of imagination. And one of the examples we can find is 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 8 to 17. And this is the story of Elisha and his servant. So Israel's neighbors were fighting with Israel, and there's this particular king. Everything he planned, Israel seemed to know what is going on. So he actually thought there was a spy who is spying on their strategies. And so they came to attack Elisha. So when the servant saw this big army, he saw an enemy army, horses and chariots, he was very, very afraid. And he was like, now what are we going to do? We are doomed here. But what Elisha told him is, I mean, that's what you see, but there is more to see than that. And you know that Elisha prayed that God could open his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he was able to see now an even bigger army with chariots of fire that was surrounding Elisha. So what does that mean? Sometimes we just see part of the picture. And therefore we need to actually sometimes pray to God to open our eyes so that we are able to see that which we are not able to see at the moment. So this may take the form of sometimes we just see scarcity. Well, there's actually opportunity for a lot of abundance. So we need to evaluate those things, and especially when what is keeping you away from achieving your goal is something that is not enabling you to achieve your goal. It is a statement that is in negative form. Then we really need to evaluate that, and we ask ourselves, is this really true, or am I just seeing part of the situation? So we need to move from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality, because I mean, there's nothing lacking in this world. God has provided everything that we need to do. So one of the ways is always replacing a limiting belief with a liberating belief. And again, if we use scripture, we have 2 Peter 1:3 that says, by his divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. We have received all of this by coming to know him, the one he called us to himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. God has provided us with everything we need to live a godly life. So there's nothing lacking. And of course, we all know Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I can serve my client with technology, and I do, even if that is not my area of gifting or my area of strength. So what is that is stopping you from achieving that important goal? And I mean, is it excluded when scripture says all things? Is your challenge excluded from that word? I believe all things means all things. I believe everything means everything. So I believe you can revise that. So how do you go about revising a belief? First, you must recognize what that belief is. You can't redefine that which you have not defined. So define it. What is it? I don't have money. I don't have time. I don't have resources. Whatever it is, define it. Then write it down. Record it. Writing is very, very important. When you put it down, look at it and ask yourself, is this true? There's a way when you put something on paper that it takes a different form than when you're just thinking about it in your mind. Then review it and ask yourself, how does this help me achieve my goal? If it doesn't, then reject it or reframe it. So there are some which you need to reject because they're not true at all. And for others, you'll need to reframe it. So for my technology challenge, I reframed it. I said, I may not be the one to do it, but I have the resources to actually serve my client with technology. And then revise it and say, now take the new form that is positive and in a manner that you can actually implement it. And once you do that, reorient your life around it. So today, when I think of sending anything to my clients, I don't send messages. I talk to my social media person and I ask her, can you prepare this flyer? Because in as much as I'm not good at technology, I can actually do those things. And some people are very visual. They will respond to a flyer than to a message. So I have reoriented my life. The first thing I consider is how can I use technology to communicate to my clients? But that was not my natural way of dealing with it. So once you reorient your life, you actually start realizing that what you believed was not possible can actually be possible. Now, sometimes we may have tried to do these things and there are certain things we did and we regret them. And regrets are not necessarily bad. Actually, backward thinking is important. We need to review how we have acted in the past, how we have worked towards goals in the past. We need to learn from the past. The purpose of regret is not to condemn us or to make us feel less than like we failed, but it's actually to learn from it, to grow and to progress. So what do we need to do? We need to acknowledge those experiences. What exactly happened? I had wanted to lose 10 kilograms, but I didn't lose any. If anything, I added weight. Why did this happen? Be honest with yourself. Why did the results that I got happen? I probably did not exercise. I was not eating right. Identify exactly what went wrong. And then how can I improve from here? In most cases, the answers are very, very clear. Once you know what happened and what caused those results, then identify those things that you're supposed to do. So regret is supposed to instruct us. It's supposed to motivate us, not to condemn us. And it's supposed to act as a moral compass. When you do something and you regret it, it actually shows you you're deviating from what you have actually set to pursue in your life. So regret has its place. However, it's interesting to note that some people have done a lot of research on the whole use of regret. And this is what they have found, that people's biggest regrets are a reflection of where in life they see largest opportunities. That is where they see tangible prospects of change, growth, and renewal. So for instance, if there's something I feel I could have done something about, then I'm more likely to regret about what I did or I did not do, as opposed to somewhere where I actually have no idea what would that happen. So the top regret areas where a majority of people seem to regret is usually in regards to things like education, their careers, romance, parenting, taking care of themselves, or leisure, because there's something you could have done about your education. Some people, it means either going back to school, working harder. In terms of careers, some people gave too much to their careers or they gave too little to their careers. It was something within your control, something that if you probably did the right things, or if you knew better, you'd actually have made progress. So instead of now waiting until when we have not done these things, where we find opportunities for growth, then let us give our best and let us actually do that which we're supposed to do. Because if we do that, chances are we are able to grow, we are able to meet these goals because there's an opportunity actually for growth. However, if you have done something and you have regretted, you're in a stage of life where you feel there's something you should have done earlier you did not do, then don't get stuck in that regret. Feeling guilty, condemning yourself about it does not help the situation. If anything, it robs you of the energy and enthusiasm to actually progress. So make peace with your past. I would have wanted to be married by this time, to have 3 children, but I don't even have a boyfriend. I would have wanted to have built this asset base, but I am nowhere near that. Fine, I did not make it. I know what the mistakes I made, and now I know how I can move from here. Now, the next thing that we need to recognize that as we are making peace with our past, the failures that we have experienced, sometimes we tend to see a lot of negative things, but actually a lot of good has also happened. So let us look at what has happened to our life with gratitude. Think of what you're most grateful for. The last 2 years have been difficult, but we are here. We are alive. There are many people who did not make it. That in itself is a reason to be very, very grateful. You probably did not reach the goal that you wanted, but probably you grew in something else. So there's always good that our lives we probably have achieved, even if there's a lot of negative things that, or probably there are things that we didn't achieve that we had said earlier. Why is gratitude important? It keeps us hopeful and it enables us to be patient, to know that something good will come out of it. So it reminds you that there's something you can do. And then you tend to amplify the good that is already in your life. So if you amplify the good, that changes your attitude. It makes you feel good about your past as well, even if there are certain things that you are not so happy about. So it's important that we have the right beliefs. We have to get rid of limiting beliefs, and we have to replace them with liberating beliefs. because it is possible to actually change how we believe. And then once we do that, let's look at our past. If there's anything we're not happy about it, we need to make peace with it. And that now frees us to actually now design our future. It's the third step. We have to set goals for our future. Why is setting goals important? I don't think we have evidence of anyone who achieved significant success who did not plan for it. It just happened. That does not happen. Nothing will happen just by chance. We have to be intentional about the direction we want our lives to take. Your finances will never be in order if you are not intentional about it. Your weight, if you just eat whatever you want, you don't exercise, there is no way you're going to remain fit if you don't do it. So anything worthwhile requires intentionality, and you need to be very, very clear about what it is that you want. Sometimes we are not, we have a general idea, I want to be healthy. What does that mean? We need to be very, very specific and very clear. And then once you are clear on what you want to do, ensure that you pursue it. So in all this, where do you start? You start by writing goals. So I think, I don't know whether I am able to see the poll results. Or maybe Regina, if you can read them out for me. One of the questions I asked is, have you written your goals?
Yes, Rose, I can read them out for you. Those who have goals are 62% of those who've joined. Those without goals are 38%.
Okay. Did we have an age bracket?
Yes. The majority who have resolutions, interesting, they're between 40 and 49.
Oh.
The group that's lagging behind is between 20 and 29.
20 and 29.
Yes.
Interesting. So it seems that the research in America does not apply to this particular group, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm glad to hear that majority of us have set goals. And what about written goals?
Written goals, 60% have, 40% have not.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, New Year's resolution, 60% have made again, 40% have not. Then the last was the biggest challenge in achieving your goals. The biggest challenge you have is motivation at 26% and also time at 26%. Then comes money at 23%. The rest are around 10%. Confidence, discouragement, and support system.
Okay, great. So there's a lot of research that has been done on goals. Actually, there's a lot of good materials out there to read about goals. But the interesting thing I found out of a research that was done by Professor Gail Matthews from Dominican University of California is that writing your goals down boosts achievement by 42%. When they're in your head, yes, you can achieve them, but when you write them down, you boost your achievement by 42%. So the 40% who have not written their goals down, I would urge you to write those goals down. And why is it that written goals sort of, you tend to achieve them? One, because when something is in your mind, it's possible that you don't have clarity. I mean, yeah, you're thinking about, I want to get better at this, I want to improve something. However, you cannot write that confusion down. It forces you to clarify what you have to write down. So by the time you write something down, it is very clear what it is that you want to achieve. So the mere fact that you're writing down, you have to clarify it. But while it's still in your mind, sometimes you don't get to that conclusion. So write it down, you will have clarified that. And I think this is also one of the things that psychologists tell us to do. If you're struggling with something, you have stress, they really encourage us to journal, because as you journal down, you actually clarify what you're writing. And sometimes you read what you've written and you're like, wow, that is clearer than it was when it was in my mind. The other thing that writing down goals helps you with is that it actually helps you overcome obstacles and resistance. And one of the reasons why this happens is that by writing down, you engage more senses. When it's in your mind, it's probably your imagination, you're thinking about it. But when you write down, first, you have imagined it. Two, you are writing down with your hand. So there's the touch, there's actually sight. And probably sometimes if it is something you're speaking aloud, you're also engaging your audio senses. There's a lady in our small group called Dr. Mary Madumadu. She deals with children, especially children with certain challenges. And one of the things she tells us is writing involves all your senses. And I'm not the best person to explain that, but the way she explained is that by involving all your senses, it actually helps you to actually achieve that particular thing that it is you're doing. Because you've already committed sort of part of a lot of your senses into it. So you have clarity, you're sure this is what you want to do, this is what you have written down. If you keep reviewing those goals, you are likely to achieve them. So even when we are learning, we do a lot of writing. We encourage to write. God told everybody, write down. We know he has written the law in our hearts, but he still insisted that it needs to be written down in a book, and we still use the Bibles, the hard copies. So get into a habit of writing. You're improving, clarify what you want, and you're actually overcoming resistance and obstacles. The other thing is that if you keep reviewing what you've written down, so you don't just write and never review it, if you keep reviewing it every month, every day, it actually motivates you to action. It reminds you, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this. But if there's nothing to refer to, chances are some of the goals you'll actually forget about them. But the other thing that it does is that it keeps you focused, and you're able to avoid what we call the shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome is, as you go about life, you see nice things along the way, and there could be nothing wrong with those things. Maybe your goal is actually to save for retirement or whatever it is, but you see a nice plot or a certain investment, and it could be a good investment in itself, but it might probably not be the best investment that could help you achieve your retirement goal. So we know that the enemy of best is good, but when you have your written goals and you're referring to them constantly, you'll actually be able to tell this is a good investment, but it's probably not the best investment. What that does is that it keeps you focused and it keeps you on track. And finally, the other reason why writing goals boost achievement is that it makes success visible. You're able to see, this is what I set out to do, and actually I can tick, I have been able to achieve this, I have been able to achieve this. For those who are my clients, I may have shared this with you. Every year I buy myself a nice, they're called what? Journals. So for this year, this is what I have. I just went to Keswick, bought myself a journal. And what I do is that at the back of the journal, I write all my goals. I just sit down and allow myself to dream. I just write anything that I would want to accomplish this year. Of course, I pray about it, and I put a lot of thought to it, and I revise those goals, and I decide these are going to be my goals for the year. And as I keep reviewing those goals, what I notice is that I keep ticking them. So the other day I had an opportunity to look at my 2012 journal, 2013 journal, 2015 journal. Some years I would actually accomplish 90% of all the goals that I had listed down. Some goals, they were pushed forward, and what I came to notice, even those goals I didn't achieve then, now they have been achieved. But one of the important things what that does is that it motivates me to set goals next year. And it doesn't have to be just the grand goals. It could be even simple goals. I want to visit my parents 4 times a year 4 times this year. That might not be one of those major goals that we feel we need a lot of resources and all that. But every time I look at that goal, I ask myself, how many times have I gone home? I've actually done 3 times, and I'm motivated because I am doing well. So please write down your goals. By mere writing them down, but also regularly reviewing them, you'll be able to achieve most of them. And we are talking from experience. Now, how do you write these goals? You may have heard of the acronym SMARTer goals. I don't know if this is exactly what you've heard, but Michael Hyatt makes a little change, especially in 2 of the letters. So S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for actionable, R stands for risky. I think majority of us, we use realistic. And then T stands for time bound. E stands for, I don't know what E normally stands for, but he talks about exciting goals. And then R stands for relevant. So we look at all this and we see how is it that when we don't set smarter goals, we are not able to achieve them. Let's start with specific. When you want to achieve something, you cannot be vague about it. You have to be very, very sure what it is that you want to accomplish. I want to lose 10 kilograms. When you say, I want to be healthy, that is not a goal that you're likely to achieve, because what is healthy? How will you know that you have actually become healthy? There must be some metrics that shows exactly what will define that healthy as. So avoid goals that starts with, that are not specific, that you cannot pinpoint or you cannot confirm when you achieve them. So it has to be very, very specific. I want to build an emergency fund. I want to build my retirement fund to 10 million. I want to diversify my income. So it is very, very clear. I'm moving from one source of income being my salary, and I want to have interest income. I want to have rental income. I want to have dividend income. That is very, very specific. Then whatever goal that you're going to do must be measurable. You must have a way to quantify it. So when you say I want to be healthy, you have to know how to quantify that. Healthy means being at a specific weight or below a certain weight. It also means not eating a certain kind of diet. It has to be very, very specific. I'll be eating 3 meals a day, or I'm going to skip 1 meal and I'll be doing 2 meals a day. You have to ensure that you're able to measure, because that's what will enable you to measure progress, and you'll be able to know whether you've accomplished your goal or not. Quantify what you want. I want an emergency fund of 1 million, not just an emergency fund. Then your goals must be actionable. Actionable means it is specific action that you will do. So I am going to save 10,000 shillings every month for 12 months, and I'll have a fund of 120,000 at the end of the year. That goal is very specific, and that fund is for my emergency. You're saving for emergency fund. The value of that emergency fund needs to be 120,000 at the end of the year. And it is actionable in the sense that I will be putting aside 10,000 shillings every month towards that goal, and I'll be putting that money in a specific place, and I'll have that money at the end of the year. And that goes for every particular goal. So for instance, let's look at a non-financial goal. For instance, one of the things I would want to achieve this year is to engage corporates. Right now, I'm working a lot with individuals, but I would like to also start having corporate clients. So what is my goal this year? I want to add to my portfolio 5 corporate clients where I'll be offering regular trainings, and I'll be helping individuals with their financial or retirement plans. That is the global goal. But how specific is it? Corporates, and I want 5 of them. They're measurable, and I want to be offering regular trainings, and I want to be taking their clients through retirement planning or financial planning. So the actionable part is, what is it that I will be doing? So I will be engaging 3 corporate clients every week. I'll be pitching this service to 3 corporate clients every week for a period of 2 months. So I need to do all that within 2 months. So I'm now already moving to a time kid goal. So writing down a goal will involve a process where you clarify what is the specific goal, how will I measure it, what specific action will I be taking? And then when it comes to risky, what most of us have been using as realistic, it has actually been confirmed that we tend to put more effort in something that is more risky than something we are comfortable about. So if you set an easy goal, chances are there'll be no motivation. After all, you know you can do it. As Christians, we're encouraged to have what we call faith goals, things we know that we cannot achieve unless God comes through for us. So when you make it a risky goals, it means it's a stretch. It's not something that you can do very easily, otherwise you should have done it. But it will require extra effort. You'll be motivated to actually do more. I'll get back to that risky a little bit later, because there's also a negative connotation to it. You can also set very risky goals that will set you up for failure. Time kid, there must be a time frame to these goals. Otherwise, it can take forever. And some goals, you can have a short time, and some goals you can have a long time. So for instance, if I want to build an emergency fund, it can be on to build an emergency fund in 3 months, or in 6 months, or in 1 year, whatever specific period. So it's also important that you set appropriate time. Sometimes we say, I want to lose 2 kilograms by December. Chances are you will not lose 2 kilograms by December, because that is a very long time compared to the goal that you have. So I can decide not to do anything until November, because it is possible to lose 2 kilograms in a month. And what will happen is that I might do nothing, and then come November, I'll not be able to achieve that goal. Or by not doing anything between now and November, I could probably be piling up more kilos, and it will be more difficult actually to attain the original goal that I had. So ensure that the time frame you're putting to a specific goal is a reasonable time frame, one that will stretch you a bit, but also not too much time or too little time that would actually put excessive pressure on you. The goals need to be exciting. And I think this is very, very true, and especially with habit goals. We have 2 types of goals. There are goals that you want to achieve something, we call them achievement goals, and then there are habit goals. Those things you want to be a routine, and it's not like you reach a point where you say you have done that. Like health goals, most of them will be things you have to do continuously for the rest of your life. So if something is not exciting, for example, if you're telling me to not eat certain types of things, and that is not very comfortable with me, chances are I'll not succeed at that goal. Does it mean that you can only set goals that you enjoy, that are fun and everything? Not necessarily, but you need to ensure that you're not setting up goals that you're so averse to them that it would actually take too much effort to actually do these things. There need to be aspects of that goal that you enjoy doing it. And sometimes that grows on you with time. Many people don't like exercising because, I mean, it's painful, it's hard and all that. But if you take an element of exercise that you enjoy, and if I may give an example, one of the exercises I've come to enjoy, it wasn't always the case, is actually walking. A few times I want to go to Karura, whether I have company or not, but I have found it to be something that now I look forward to, not because of the health aspect of it, but because the action itself has become enjoyable, even if initially it was not enjoyable. So make sure there's some aspect of that goal that you can enjoy. And as you continue doing it, it might be the reward in itself, not even now the output that you wanted, because it has been proved that we enjoy most activities when we are doing them, not before or even after, but when you are actually doing it. So when I walk, I feel good when I'm walking, but even after I have walked, I feel good about it. So I will actually go to walk, not because I want to shed weight or because I want to keep fit, but because that walking in itself makes me excited. And then the other goal is relevant goals. What does that mean? You need to make goals that are relevant to your season of life. Sometimes we set ourselves for failure by setting goals that are not practical in our season of life. So think of somebody who probably is in a season of life with children at home, maybe young children that require a lot of attention, but that is when you're setting goals. You want to write a book, you want to do your master's, you want to do many, many other things. You might find yourself failing. And we've seen many people who maybe attempt to do a master's degree, but they have a lot of responsibilities. It drags on for many, many years because they really don't have the time to do all that. So ensure that what you're doing is something that is relevant to that season of life. And even the goals that you're doing as a whole are not contradictory. So for instance, you might have a goal of enjoying your life. You only live once, YOLO for the young ones, that's what they say. But you also want to build a financial nest. Those two goals might be contradictory. So if you are living like you just have to live now because you don't know whether you'll be there tomorrow, there'll be no motivation to actually save finances. So ensure that your goals are aligned and nothing is working in conflict with the other. And these goals, ultimately, they'll sort of support you. they'll actually become intertwined, and they all help you achieve goals. So for those who have been attending webinars and we've been talking about principles of managing money, when we talk about them, there are 5, but what you realize is that they are all intertwined. So for example, when you say spend less than you earn, that means there will be a margin. The second principle is actually create a margin. And by creating a margin, then it will help you avoid debt, because should an emergency arise, you don't have to go into debt. You already have a margin somewhere. And then with that margin, you can also save and you can also plan long-term, because you can save for goals that you'll need to meet in future. And of course, with that margin, again, by spending less than you earn, you can also be able to participate in giving. Now, those goals are all intertwined, and by doing one, it actually enables you to do the others. That's what I mean by your goals should be able to support each other, but not work against each other. So let's talk a little bit about risky goals. Why should our goals be a little bit risky? Because if they are very comfortable, comfort is associated with boredom and low engagement. If I know I can do this, then I don't really have to plan time when I'm going to do it, because I know I can do it. And in many cases, it ends up not being done. But when you set a relatively difficult goal, something that you'll need to stretch, what it does, it's likely to create some enthusiasm and sustain that enthusiasm. So I can't do it at my comfortable pace. I need to prepare for it. I'll need to do something about it. I'll need to continue doing something. Then chances are you'll engage high performance. So a challenge will normally summon best behavior. Well, when there's no challenge, in most cases, it will actually make you less engaged. You sort of try to do this on autopilot, and the results will not be good. So set stretch goals, which are outside your comfort zone. Nothing much comes out of our comfort zone. It's in stepping outside your comfort zone. And how do you know you're in a discomfort? When you start feeling fear, when you start feeling uncertain, when you start doubting whether you'll make it, then it means you're not in your comfort zone. And it is in that state that you'll be able to achieve most of your goals. I've had clients sign up for financial plan where they have the first 50%, but they have no idea where the second 50% will come from. And they're wondering, okay, what will happen? But somehow, before the next installment is due, they get the money. And probably you've also had people who've started things before they are very, very sure about it. I'm not saying you do this without counting the cost. And we'll talk about that. That's what we call being delusional. But what we are saying is you need to be outside your comfort zone. You have to start things in faith, and you'll actually expect God to come through, and He does come through. But when it is something that you can do, then you also don't need God for such situations. So set stretch goals, let them be risky, let them require extra effort. That will likely generate better performance than when it is just something within your comfort zone. So we have to move from comfort to discomfort, but we have to avoid going to the delusional. Michael Hyatt calls it the delusional zone. So a delusional zone is something that it's a goal that you have set that clearly sets you up for failure. And sometimes when you just have these conversations with people, I ask them, okay, how much money would you want to make? You hear somebody saying 100 billion. Probably that's what they would want to make. But for many people, it can be a delusional idea, because first, is there a way of achieving that? I mean, why do you even want to do that? And sometimes you just feel that they're not clear about their why. So ensure that your goals align with your priorities. A delusional goal is one that does not align with your priorities. So for example, I might decide that my goal now is to become the 5th president of this Republic of Kenya. I have no party, I have not done any campaign. That's clearly a delusional zone. There's so much that would have needed to be done by now for me to be able to even aspire for that kind of a goal. So ensure that your goals align with your priorities by being clear on your priorities. Remember, I talked about clarity. And ensure that that goal is inspiring. If it is not inspiring, it will not get done. So I probably want 100 billion shillings as my net worth, but for what? if there's no specific inspiration, that goal will surely fail. So set risky goals, but not delusional goals. They will frustrate you, you're going to fail, and you're likely now to start saying, I will not be setting goals. So we are now moving towards, we've come up and we've said what a goal needs to be. It needs to be specific, needs to be measurable, it needs to be actionable, it needs to be risky, it needs to be time-bound, it needs to be exciting, and it needs to be relevant. Now, once you have those goals, then we have to start thinking about what will keep me doing it. And this is the fourth stage of the goal achievement process. So what is it that will keep me going when the going gets tough? Anything significant in life, you will not achieve it in your comfort zone, you'll achieve it in the discomfort zone. In the comfort zone, you're likely to stagnate, but when you stretch, you're likely to be uncomfortable and you're going to grow. However, most of us don't enjoy discomfort. We enjoy comfort. We try to avoid pain as much as possible. So we will not achieve that without pain. So it's good to anticipate that in the process of achieving these goals, there will be some pain, there will be some stretch, there will be some discomfort. And the best thing would be to plan for that. So sometimes we come up with very good goals, very smart goals, but we forget to actually come up with strategies that will ensure we remain on course when the going gets tough, because the going will definitely get tough. So we've been promised pain. We've been promised trouble in this world. Scripture has told us in this world you'll have trouble. No one has ever achieved success without going through some difficulties. Sometimes we don't get to see, and I think there's a very common picture we see of an iceberg, where what is visible above water is the success, but what is not visible at the bottom and what is the biggest, the visible is sometimes 10%. The 90% is the struggle, but sometimes we want to avoid that. So we need to be prepared for the struggle. If you don't prepare for the struggle, when the struggle comes, you will not have the resources to go through. This is what we call the messy middle. It gets messy in the middle. So it's important first to acknowledge that it will get uncomfortable. And then when the pain comes, we need to embrace it, not run away from the pain, because it's part of the process. We need to lean towards the pain. And then we'll feel fear. And we are told, feel the fear, but do it anyway. But it's important to notice what it is that you're afraid of, because you cannot address what you have not defined. So sit down and say, what is it that I'm afraid of? Acknowledge it. Don't ignore it. Acknowledge it, but don't allow it to control you. So for instance, in my journey of leaving employment, which took 8 years, one of the fear I came to realize I had, and I was not able to overcome it because it took me so long to define it, is when even I was very sure I need to leave employment, I was afraid. And I had to ask myself, what is this that is holding me back? And it turned out that my fear was change in lifestyle. So I was afraid that, yes, I am coming from a comfortable job, I'm earning good money. I was even earning bonuses. I was in a sales role and we were doing well, we'd get a lot of bonuses. So my lifestyle was comfortable. And now I'm moving into a space I've never been before. I have no idea whether people make money or not. So it was a genuine concern that my lifestyle could actually change for us. And now when I gained clarity on that fear, then I was able to address it. Some of the questions I asked myself are, is the lifestyle I'm enjoying today the best lifestyle that I can ever enjoy? And I realized that I was only seeing one part of it. Well, yes, I was having financial comfort. There were so many other things that I was not happy about. I was not feeling fulfilled. I knew my time was up from where I was and I needed to be somewhere else. And by being there, even if my performance was good, I was not a happy person. And that was a pain that was actually much bigger and difficult to deal with. I was struggling with weight issues. I mean, it was so hard to maintain right weight. I was eating in hotels almost every other day. I was in sales. I'm entertaining clients. I'm training clients. I would eat a lot in hotels. My cholesterol level was borderline. The doctors were telling me, if it exceeds here, we are putting you on medication. And actually coming out of that environment helped me manage cholesterol without even having to take medication. So, but it started with defining the fear of my lifestyle going down. And then I was able to deal with it. And then don't overthink it. Sometimes we overthink things. We want to know exactly what will happen from here until we are successful. But the truth of the matter is God does not even promise to give us the whole way. He only gives us the next step. He only sheds light on the next step. This is a walk of faith. If he shows you everything, then there's no need for faith. And we know people like Joseph, Moses, they didn't know what was going to happen next. Yes, you have been shown this vision. This is what I want you to do. I want you to deliver these Israelites, and it is God talking to you. So you think it will be easy. But you know how many times Moses was fed up with these people. He even asked God at one point to take his life. The only person who knew what would happen next was Jesus and nobody else. So let me assure you that even as you set these goals, you will have expectations, and that is what we normally have. We think that only good will happen. I can assure you that's not the case, and many of us know that. So just be content with what you know. Once you do the next thing, once you have clarity on the next thing that you're supposed to do, once you do it, you'll gain clarity on the next thing. And that is how this journey goes. If you get discouraged or disappointed or disillusioned because you don't know what will happen, you will definitely not be able to achieve your goals. Now, one of the other things that can help us to get through the messy middle is tying rewards to progress. Anticipate the reward. So, like I said, sometimes the reward is something desirable. Like if I exercise, I'll have good health, I'll have the right weight, and I'll be okay. But sometimes the reward will be the activity, the action you are taking will in itself become a reward. But sometimes it is also good to set milestones and give yourself a reward. So if I do this, if I achieve my target, and I think most salespeople know this, you're given targets. If you beat this target, I'll give you a bonus of this much. So what is that reward that you can tie to key milestones to keep you motivated? It could be something as simple as, if I do this, I get out to go out and have a meal out with my friend. Or if I do this, then if I meet my target of 5 clients that I'll be working with during this year, I want to go to Masai Mara for 3 nights. That's about 40,000. And when you put the money aside, and when that happens, you actually take the reward, that motivates you. And you keep setting rewards. Rewards are very, very important. In as much as we might say we are older, we know these things, we're not like children, reward actually motivates us. Even right living, we are living well here. We are trying to live according to God's word because we have been promised a reward, which is eternal life. So there's a place for rewards. Define them, things that you enjoy, things that will motivate you. And then just know that new habits take time. Signing up a corporate client is not something that will take a day. I mean, it's not like they were waiting for me to approach them. They are ready to start and they have a budget for it. No, sometimes it will involve convincing them why helping their clients to plan for retirement is important. And that will take time. For those who are in pensions, when we are helping organizations to set up retirement benefit schemes, we knew it's a process that takes 2 years to close, because you'll start by convincing the client, and then after that, they'll need to put that cost in their budget. Chances are by the time they've got the idea, they can't incorporate in that year. So they have to put it in next year. So we used to work with 2 years. So whatever it is, the new habit you're trying to achieve, or the goal that you're trying to achieve, chances are it will take longer than you expect. And that you need to accept that, so that it doesn't surprise you when it takes long. And then there are ways you can make progress interesting. I think nowadays technology is one of the things that we can use to make that progress interesting. You can have a tracking device where you track how well you're doing. I know many people use that watch that tracks the steps, and they feel motivated because they have met their target or they are close to their target, but you're able to monitor your progress. Whatever works for you, tracking your progress is encouraging and will keep you motivated. And then measure the gain, not the gap. Sometimes we tend to focus on the half empty glass as opposed to the half full glass. you have to go. I'm only at 5 million, I have 15 million. That will actually be discouraging. But if you make $1 million and you save that 1 million, and then you're like, wow, I have done 1 million, that is likely to motivate you. Focus on the gain, not on the gap. So the other thing that you need to know is to know your why. And I think this has become a very common phrase. I'm sure this is not the first place you're hearing about it. Knowing why you're setting a goal is one of the reasons that will enable you to pursue that goal, persevere through the messy middle, and actually achieve it. So what is your motivation behind it? You want to retire early so that if that goal is not compelling enough, believe me, when the going gets tough, you're going to abandon that goal. So you have to come up with very compelling reasons and personal reasons, not because somebody else is doing it, not because you're comparing yourself with someone, personal reasons that are compelling to keep you going when the going gets tough. Sometimes we know what we want to achieve, but we don't even know the why, or because somebody said we should do it. Make sure that you have a compelling reason. In today's quote that I shared, I said, Gil hired his wife to Michael Hyatt. What he says is that you actually lose your way when you lose your why, when you can't remember why you started this journey in the first place. It is too painful, it is too hard. I don't even know why I started this. But if you know what it is, chances are you'll stay. So how can you leverage things that will enable you to actually understand your motive and ensure that you keep going when it's difficult, when you remain motivated? You can leverage 5 things. One is perspective. You need to adopt the perspective that there is no instant success. In achieving a goal, in doing anything, there is no instant success. And even if you've heard of 1 or 2 people who have achieved what would appear as instant success, maybe they won a lottery. Yes, it's 1 or 2, but that's not the way it happens for majority of us. We've heard of the story of crossing the falls using a rope. I mean, 1 or 2 people can actually do that. We have people who can specialize and do that. But you can't tell the whole population that now crossing from one side of the fall to the other one, you use that rope. No. So for most of us, majority of us, with the exception of very, very few people, and sometimes we don't know the whole story, success will not be instant. You will not achieve that goal instantly. It will take time. So have the right perspective. So when the delay happens, then you're not discouraged. Then you need to have a new frame. And this means reframing frustrations. So when something happens that you didn't anticipate or something you don't like, ask yourself, what does this make possible? For example, there's a delay. You expected to close this account by February. We are in June, we haven't closed it, or the client has said, we need more time. What can that additional time help you with? Try to see everything, these frustrations from a positive perspective. A broken relationship can give you actually an opportunity to meet somebody with the qualities that you're really looking for, because probably what broke the other one, there was something that didn't work out. So yes, you'll grieve that loss, but it actually gives you an opportunity to start another relationship. A broken relationship could be with an employer, could be with a friend, could be with somebody else. So it's another way of looking at it and say, what can I learn from this frustration? Don't waste a frustration. Distill the lessons from it. And then it's good to have self-compassion. Sometimes we set ourselves for failure by putting very high standards. We want to be perfectionist. One of the things, because, for example, if I may give a personal example, because of my challenge with technology, I would really feel bad when I make a mistake. For example, maybe I'm sending a message to people and it has a typo or something. Was it just the last day of the year, I sent a message. Some people noticed where I had said, thank you for serving you in 2022. That would crush me. I mean, it's a big mistake. I mean, how did that go without being noticed? But what I've come to realize, I have changed my frame. I'm like, okay, that gives me an opportunity to send everyone another message and remain top of mind when it comes to what it is that I'm doing. So it's a negative thing, but I can reframe it. And I also don't have to beat myself so much because I did something wrong. I am not perfect. I will not be perfect. I will make mistakes. That should not derail me from my goal. I need to continue going. And then what we call the sense of agency, the sense that things are not out of control entirely. There's something I can always do about something. Have your skin in it. If things don't work, then, I mean, there's something I must do. I'm not entitled to success. There's this soft life language we are having. There's some people, because they look in a certain way, they expect to have an easy life. But there's nothing like that. We're not entitled to anything. Every success, we require that you work for it. So know what it is that you need to do. You will be required to put in effort. It will not just happen. And of course, leveraging on your why, the deep, personal, compelling reasons. And these compelling reasons, where do they come from? These are your hopes, your values, your ambitions. And you have to have clarity on those things. And then when you have that, that will help you. And one of the ways of defining a why is looking at what is at stake. So the other day I was having problems with my hands. If I wash utensils a lot, I would start feeling pain in my, not necessarily pain, but a discomfort. And I was really wondering what is going on. So yes, I want to go see the doctor so that I can be diagnosed, but I'm also afraid of what could it be. So one of the things I asked myself, okay, if I don't go, what will happen? Will the condition resolve itself? Chances are not. If I go, it might even be a very bad diagnosis, but I have a chance to do something about it. So when you are evaluating your reasons, look at it in the sense that what is at stake if I achieve this goal? So for example, health. No one wants to do exercises every day. It's painful, it's hard, all that. What is at stake if I achieve that goal? I'll be healthy. But it's important to look at it. What is at stake if I don't achieve that goal as well? So one of the things I have looked at and seen is that many people are getting diabetes just because of our kind of lifestyle. And I think recently I've interacted with a number of people who've had diabetes or their parents are diabetic, and it's a very difficult lifestyle. So one of the things that can make exercise a compelling reason is that if I don't exercise, maintain right body weight, eat well, and all these things, I could actually get diabetes. Now, I don't want to get diabetes because that means I cannot enjoy the food that I like enjoying. I'll be forced to do certain things in a different way. That in itself, for me, is a compelling reason. If I have history of diabetes in my family, then I'll try to do everything I can within my ability to avoid that. So I will exercise whether I like it or not. Then always write down your why. You know why? Because you will forget when the going gets tough. Remember, we talked about writing goals and keep reviewing them. That will help you to achieve your goals. And make that why intrinsic, something of value to you. It's something internal. It's not something external. It's not so that I look good. It's so that I avoid diabetes. It's so that I live a healthy lifestyle. I'll be able to enjoy the kinds of food that I enjoy because I'll eat in moderation and I can enjoy them for the rest of my life. Make your motivation intrinsic, not because of others. If you're doing it for others, that will not keep you in the race when it gets tough. The other thing is track your progress. Always monitor your progress. That will remind you of the why, and you'll see what you're doing, and this will encourage you. But also create a community around yourself. When you have people who are supporting you with your goal, it will become easier. When I was writing the book, Retirement Planning, I had a few people who I had talked to, and I had told them, this is what I intend to do, sent them the small pieces that I had already written, and they motivated me to go. But there's one particular friend of mine called Ben. He was my colleague at Britam in the same industry. What Ben did every week, I don't know if it was Liberate, but he always used to ask me, where are we now? Is there something I can evaluate? Because he was my content editor. So I knew before the end of this week, I know I'm going to get a call from Ben, and I felt I needed to update him on what I was going on. And what I realized is that that community, even if for me initially it was not clearly defined to hold me accountable, there were several people, some in this forum, I can see their names here, who kept on asking me, and that goal was achieved. So create a community, and that's why people who struggle with things like addictions or certain challenges, they're encouraged to be in support groups. We have Alcoholic Anonymous. Sometimes you'll go into that group, and just the fact that somebody was able to come out of it motivates you to keep going even when it gets hard. There are other support groups for grief, for divorce, and many other things. And there's a lot of help that comes from that. And sometimes this support may actually not necessarily come from such a group. Sometimes you can have a group, but you can also get that help from other sources. You can attend a webinar, you can have a coach, you can have a mentor. Basically what we are saying, have somebody who will hold you accountable and who will encourage you along the race. But a community has more benefits because one, it accelerates your learning because you learn from different people in settings that you can relate to. They also give you references to relevant resources, and you can even learn best practices from them because it is geared towards solving a particular problem. But it also gives you encouragement, validation, support. You actually feel you're among people who understand what you're going through, whatever goal it is that you're pursuing, whether it's starting a business, building your finances, whatever it is, accountability. There are people who will check on you and they want to keep you on track. And sometimes there could even be, some groups could even have a level of competition. But what we know is that when there's a level of competition, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We tend to perform better if we are competing. If we are walking and we are 2 or 3 people, I'll probably walk at a faster pace if there's a level of competition than if I'm walking by myself. So if you find yourself, you're in a competitive environment, that is not necessarily a bad thing. But the caution is to choose your circle carefully, because if you're not careful, you could actually associate with company that could actually derail you. So every person or every group you associate with, remember, you impact them and they impact you. So be careful. Choose people who will actually enable you to go on. So these are some of the implementation tactics that can actually help you remain in the race. So you have redefined your beliefs. You believe that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, and God has equipped you with everything you need to live a godly life. So you can have liberating beliefs. You don't have to have limiting beliefs. If there are things that happened in your past regarding certain goals, you felt you are frustrated, make peace with that. Learn from those experiences. Don't condemn yourself, move forward. Then be intentional about the things you want to achieve. Set SMART goals. They must be smart, they must be specific, measurable, actionable, risky, must be time-bound, must be exciting, and they must be relevant. They must be aligned. And once you do that, then create around yourself, one, a community that will help you as the going gets tough. Anticipate that there will be a tough season. It will take longer than you want. It will be harder than you want. And that is the nature of things. So when that happens, it doesn't surprise you. Then ensure that you are clear about your why. Why am I doing this? And that reason must be compelling enough to keep you going through the difficult times. And as you're doing all those things, please document what you're doing, because you will forget why you are in the race. And then the final stage is, when you have all that, then go ahead and make it happen. Sometimes we have SMART goals, we know everything, but we don't start. You need to start. Just take the next action. And if I was to give you an example of what happens when you don't do what you're supposed to do, I think the best example is the children of Israel. They were in the wilderness. I mean, they have crossed the Red Sea. They're in the wilderness. They're supposed to cross to the promised land. And they feared, and they decided that they're not going to start. And you know what happened? They were in the wilderness for 40 years. And sometimes we stay in the wilderness for 40 years, figuratively, whatever that means. For me, it was 8 years. For 8 years, I was just, I know I need to change, I know I need to move, but I didn't have that whole process that I needed. And the minute I started adding some of those things, I probably didn't have words for them, but by the time I was leaving, I had somebody I was contacting with, I was able to actually make that move. So take action and start. So sometimes we are told to eat that frog, which normally usually means that do the hardest thing first. But when you're making, when you want to achieve difficult goals or big goals, things like, for example, retirement planning, it's something that will take you decades to achieve. If you start with the big thing or the hard thing, sometimes that strategy will not work for you. So the most important thing is to do the easy task first. Sometimes it is just calling that retirement planner, that financial planner, that doctor, that help that you need. Sometimes it's just making a call, not committing to actually start engaging them. Talk to them and find out how do I get here. Sometimes it is just opening that pension plan account, just opening it with a minimum of 500 shillings or 2,000 shillings. That's the easiest part. Get into motion. And then as you start making some success, as you start building your savings, as you start seeing tangible results, that actually gives you some quick wins, which you are able to connect with emotionally. And you start feeling, oh, I'm making progress. And that now gives you momentum. And you'll be able even to do the hard things. But sometimes when you start with the hard things, they can drain your mental energy and you won't even have energy for the easy things. So choose the strategy to use carefully. Start with the easy things. Writing a book, for example, it's a difficult thing, but you don't have to start the book from the beginning or in a certain way. You can actually start writing from wherever. If you are clear on the chapters you want to write, start with the easy chapter and you'll be able to get there. So don't necessarily start with the hard thing. And if you cannot do it, sometimes you won't know what you need to do next. Engage somebody else. That's why we have financial planners, retirement planners, we have doctors, we have mentors, we have coaches. We need help. I may not have the knowledge or the understanding of the next step I need to take, but somebody else have. And this help can be in different forms. It could be, somebody you have to pay to do that. Sometimes all you need to do is to read a certain book and you apply what you learn. It could be an article, it could be a sermon, it could be a podcast, it could be a friend, or it could actually be a professional coach. Look for help, and with help, you'll actually be able to accelerate your progress. And once you do that, I can assure you that you'll be able to achieve your goals. And this will be a strategy that you'll be able to apply. It doesn't matter how easy or difficult the environment looks. It doesn't matter if it's an election year. It doesn't matter if it is not COVID season or not. If you follow these steps, I believe that you can actually achieve your goals. Now, the reason why I chose this book to discuss it is because I found it very relevant, especially when it comes to financial planning. I just felt like he was describing the whole financial plan that we normally do, because those are basically the steps that we normally take. For instance, my first session with you, I want to know about you. And there, what I'm trying to establish are what are your beliefs? And I also want to know what experiences did you have in the past and how can we change those beliefs if they are limiting and turn them to liberating beliefs. That's what I'll do during the first session right now. And then we start setting goals and we ensure that we are setting smart goals that you'll be able to achieve. We'll set the hard things that you need to do. You have to save, you have to do all these things, but we also set fun things. And for many of you who have been clients, you've noticed many of you want to go on holiday. We do not shelve those things. We actually give them equal importance, because those good things that you do, that you enjoy, is what will keep you motivated. And then once you implement your plan and you start seeing the results, there's actually a time for review. So every time you set goals, after some time, you need to review those goals. So you have goals for a whole year. You can't review those goals in December. You need to have regular intervals when you review those goals. So Michael Hyatt has written another book I've recommended to some of my clients. It's called Free to Focus, and it basically helps you to learn how to plan your work. And in my organization, we use that with my assistant. And we normally have weekly review meetings, we have monthly review meetings, and we'll have quarterly review meetings, and you'll have the annual review meetings. So what do you do during those meetings? So what you do is that you look at the goals that you set, and you try to establish, are they still relevant to where I am now? Because life is dynamic. Something could have been a very important thing, but because of change in circumstances, maybe it's no longer important. So you look at those goals and you say, what am I supposed to be doing each day or each week or each quarter? And then at the end of that period, you look at, how did I perform? Do I need to continue doing the same thing, or do I need to change anything? This will enable you to course correct at the right time. So set those regular review meetings. And what do you do during those review meetings? If you've achieved your goal, please celebrate. Rejoice because you have achieved a milestone or you have actually met a goal. You don't wait until you just reach the goal. Some goals take long, but if you reach specific milestones, please rejoice, recognize, do what footballers do. They score and they celebrate. If you haven't, recommit to the goal. Evaluate that goal and say, if you need to commit to it, then recommit. See what you can do differently. See what you need to continue doing and what probably you need to stop doing. If you can't commit to the goal, for example, circumstances have changed, you don't need to continue with that goal, then revise the goal so that it is now in line with what you want to do. But ensure that you're not doing that to stay in the comfort zone. Maybe it's very uncomfortable and now you want to go back to the comfort zone. No. Revise the goal if you can no longer commit to it, and ensure that you're doing it in a manner that will be able to achieve it. And sometimes you actually realize that some of the goals that you set are no longer necessary. Feel free to remove that goal. If it is not going to serve your interest anymore, remove that goal. And then what do you do with that? Replace that goal with another goal. So you rejoice, you recommit, you revise the goal, or you remove the goal, or you replace the goal. That is the purpose of a review. So most of these things, you'll probably do them at quarterly review, or probably at half-year review. And for some, like financial plan, retirement plan, sometimes you do them at annual review. A goal you had set out to achieve, you realize it's no longer, you no longer need to do it, or you need to do it differently, or you need to push it, and various things. But have a plan that depending on the activity that you're doing, how can I review it on a daily basis? How can I review it on a weekly basis? And sometimes it's just a glance at what you're supposed to look at. Monthly basis, quarterly basis, annual basis. So if you apply these steps, and for me, translating this with what I do, I have seen a lot of progress with my clients where they've been able to apply this and they've been able to achieve their goals. So I would encourage you, yes, I've given you a summary of this book, but I feel that this is one of the tools that everybody should have. You can look for the book, buy it, and read it, and you'll get a lot more details. I have tried to link that to more of retirement planning and financial planning, but you can apply these principles in every aspect of your life. So evaluate your belief system. What do you believe? What do you believe is possible? Because what you believe is possible is what you're going to achieve. We sort of create the outcomes because it determines the effort we put to achieve the outcome. So if you don't think it's worth it, will not put a lot of effort, you will not achieve your goal. Believe in your goal. And one of the ways of believing in your goal is being very clear about the goal that you set and understand the why. Why have I set this goal? Why is it important that I achieve this goal? Make peace with your past. Your past is in the past. The best that you can do is to learn from it. Don't let it hold you back. Learn from it that you'll be able to move forward. Apply the lessons that you learn. Set smarter goals. Understand your why. That will keep you motivated through. And then implement the things that you need to do and make use of various help that you can get. You can use technology, you can use community, you can use a friend. Make sure you use whatever it is that you need, because most goals you're not going to achieve alone. you will need help from other people, and you will need to help other people. And then track your progress by doing reviews. But if you forget everything I have said, one of the things that I would want you to ensure that you do is to write down your goals and review them regularly. If they are all work goals, sometimes you can just have a summary of those goals and you can be able to read them every day, and then it will keep you focused. If it's non-work goals, put them somewhere you can see them. When you're brushing your teeth, you can actually read them, and then they will remind you what you need to focus on. Be committed to what you want to achieve. Be clear of the rewards that you're going to get. Remain steadfast, and you'll be able to achieve your goals. And this can happen every year, and you can make every year your best year ever. I hope that has been helpful. And I look forward to maybe questions or comments. Yeah, back.
This was very, very helpful. Thank you for that session, Rose. I think it's one of those sessions I have more than 6 or so pages of just taking notes, and I wish I could hear this every morning just to remind me. So thank you for that. It's really timely at the beginning of the year for us to set goals, and thank you for all the wisdom that you've shared with us this evening. What I like most that you've shared a personal experience, and that's sort of preaches more what you're saying because you've actually applied it. So thank you for that. I can't see any questions on the chat box, just a few compliments on the things you've been saying. And Nova, also thank you too. You've done a very good job in just capturing what I was talking about. So unless there's any question, you can just raise your hand and then we're going to give you a chance to talk, or just type on the chat box. We've gone over time, but I'm sure it was worth the extra few minutes that we've covered. So you can type your questions, then Rose will give her closing remarks, and lastly, Nova can pray. Rosemary has her hand up, so just unmute and speak.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, okay, I have a question, and it's regarding mostly knowledge is power. And most of the times you get knowledge through books and so many sources that you can use to get information. And so for me, I have so many books that I have, but I have a weakness of reading books. How will I be able to be helped on how maybe I can awaken the desire of reading these books so that I may acquire this knowledge that are in the books? Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. If I got you right, what you're saying is that you read books, but the issue is it in implementing what you learn? Am I right?
No, I have so many books, but I have a weakness of studying the books.
Oh, so you have the books, but you're not reading the books.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. This is what I would suggest. Don't buy many books. I think I've also had that experience at one point. I love books. I read a lot of books. And there are times I would buy more than one book. So what would happen is that if I buy 2 or 3 books at a time, in my case, I would find that I read none of them. But if I buy one book, which in most cases is because I know I need to learn something from that book, I put in the effort, I learn, and in most cases, I will apply what I learn. So the other thing probably you can also look at is what books do you buy? I know I've read all manner of books, but my strategy recently has been, what is it that I want to improve on? So remember we gave you an assessment test, which I hope each one of you will do. Maybe we can repost that link. It is bestyearever.me/lifescore. If you do that test, that assessment, it will show you where you're doing well and where you're not doing well. So for instance, I'm in a stage where I'm growing my business. And one of the things that I really need to learn is how do I set goals? How do I grow my business? So I'm very focused about what I am learning. That is not the only thing that I'm learning. I'm also at a stage where I really want to learn. There's a lot of issues about mental health. So I really want to know what is going on in the mental health field. How can I ensure that I remain mentally healthy? So I'm finding myself at the moment reading books to do with productivity, as well as I'm all listening to podcasts and webinars on mental health. So because it's a specific area of focus, I tend to remain on that track for some period. But if one book is on this topic, another one is on a diverse topic, sometimes you can lose track. So I would say, look at which area do you need to improve the most and probably start there, or which area are you most interested in and start there as well. There's no point of having books and not reading it. Read one book, see whether there's something you can apply from there, apply it, and then move on to the next book, because buying books and not reading it will not help. Now, sometimes you don't have time to read books, probably is an issue of time. The other thing I have adopted recently is the whole issue of audiobooks. Now, one of my clients has actually told me about an app called, or rather a company called Scrib. If I'm not wrong, Scrib is LinkedIn or something. I think they are related in one way. So Scrib is SCRIBD. You can Google. It's a website where you can find many books, not necessarily all books, but many books. So you pay a subscription of $9 per month, and then you have access. Majority of books are in audio form, and you can actually download them. You don't have to use your bundles or internet to listen to them. So that is one way I have adopted also of listening, where probably I'm on my way home, I'm driving, or I'm just somewhere waiting for something to happen or a meeting, then I can spend a few minutes. So I'm able to read books. This year I've read very many books. I think I'm approaching 8 or 10 there, because the first week of the year, I was on a break. I was able to listen. There's some books I would listen in one go. Maybe audio is 1 or 2 hours. So I've been able to listen to a number of books. That is another way you can do. But when you have knowledge and you don't apply it, it doesn't help. So you'd rather read few books, or you buy one book and read one book, and then you apply what you learn. You'll be motivated, especially when you see the results, to buy the next book and proceed. The other thing probably I would like to share is how do I get to know, for example, about Michael Hyatt, who has done a lot of work on productivity. So one of the things is I have identified some thought leaders I want to follow. So my strategy usually is, if there's a Christian who is very good in productivity, I would rather learn from a Christian than from a non-Christian. So if it is a world-recognized person, so Michael Hyatt has been ranked as one of, he has appeared in many global, there are those competitions or those things that look at the best companies in the world, the 5,000 in US or something. He has appeared in some of those. But how I met Michael Hyatt is because there's somebody I follow called Ron Blue, who is like the father of Christian financial planning in US. So he does everything from a biblical perspective. And Michael Hyatt was a guest in one of the conferences that were there. So I listened to him. I was like, okay, this one has already been vetted by Ron Blue. Then I went to his website and I actually found that I can actually learn from him. He's one of the world's best. Now, Michael Hyatt recently launched a book, and outside work, still issues of productivity. And during the launch of that book, he introduced somebody else called Pete Vargas, who helps people with public speaking. So now if I want to grow my public speaking, I know somebody else to go to. So you can choose to follow people with certain values that you are aligned with. Then it becomes easier to learn from them because you're not disagreeing with a lot of their content. I don't know if I've been helpful to you, but what I would say is don't give up. Reading is very, very important. There's so much you learn from people who have done these things before. and they can help you. They can shorten your learning curve. So start with one book, probably a topic you enjoy, and then move on from there.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Rose. Seems like this challenge is sort of universal. Joseph Korea says that I want to read a book a month, but I always fail on this. So that answer covers a lot that you said. What I can add to that is using the smarter goals that Rose has mentioned. You can just start with something small like 10 to 15 pages a day, then graduate that with time and make it exciting. You can reward yourself after finishing a whole book. You say that when I finish this book, I'm going to do this thing, just to reward yourself, and you anticipate that achieving that particular milestone. Okay, one more question from, let me just get to that. From Dennis, he's asking, is it right to have negative factors as motivation in achieving our goals?
Yes, exactly. I think I illustrated that when I said, for example, when you're thinking about a goal, you need to ask yourself, what will happen when I achieve the goal or when I don't achieve the goal? So when you don't achieve the goal is likely to be a negative factor. So for me, I knew if I don't do that annual checkup because I'm afraid, what will happen is that this could be arthritis, it could be anything, and it could deteriorate. If I don't maintain my health, I could end up being diabetic or hypertensive or whatever other condition. And that would actually make my life worse than it is right now. So that is a negative thing. It's a fear, but it's also a reality. It is possible that those are possible outcomes. So you can be motivated by positive as well as negative things. But of course, it would be best if you're dealing more with positive things. But negative things also motivate. The reason why we don't cross the roads because with our eyes closed is because we know we can get hurt. That is a negative thing, but it keeps us safe. So there is room for such motivation, negative things that could happen to us.
Okay, thank you for that. We don't have any other question, just a few compliments from the team. Somebody shared a comment about the shiny object syndrome. I think that affects most of us. Me personally, like today I went to the supermarket, I saw a very nice oven, it was on sale, and I took a picture, sent it to my husband, and I was like, can you just buy this almost now? So that can keep us away from our goal, and thank you for highlighting that, to just remain focused on what we want. Lona says, thank you very much, great insights. I think all of us do agree. Now, in the interest of time, we'll close the session here. If you want to see the recording, it will be on our YouTube page, probably tomorrow, so just check it out there. We'll also share the link at the end of the session, or probably tomorrow. So thank you. Rose can give us your closing remarks, then Nova can pray.
Okay. Thank you very much for attending and for listening in. And I'm sorry it has taken eaten into your time. Probably you're asking what next. I know last year we did a lot of things that were featured in the retirement planning book. And this year we will continue with more of that. But for the next session, I would want us to look at the psychosocial aspects of retirement. And next time we'll have actually a guest speaker who is a psychologist and who will try to help us understand why is it that retirement is one of those things. While we look forward to it, we still also struggle with it. And there's actually a grief process that goes along with retirement. Most of us are not looking forward to retirement. So we look at psychosocial issues, our mental well-being, and we'll focus on the grief that comes with such things. Now, this topic will not just be about grief in relation to retirement. It will actually be whatever the psychologist will be sharing. It will actually help you in whatever kind of grief that you're going through. And it's important to note that even the process we've just talked about, when you achieve a certain goal, sometimes you actually feel negative once you achieve it. Let me give you an example. If you've been pursuing a master's degree with your colleagues, now you have finished, you're graduating, it is an achievement and you celebrate. But there's a grief attached to it in the sense that you'll not be associating with these people as you are doing before. So it is possible that good things also attract grief, and retirement is a perfect example. So I would want you to sign up for the next meeting. We'll be sharing the link and to register soon. And if you also have people who are going through different kinds of grief, for example, people who have lost loved ones, people who are grieving because probably their children are not moving in the direction that they want, people who are grieving loss of relationships, whatever it is, whatever the psychologist will be sharing will be very helpful. We've had a discussion, and I know what she has prepared for us. So be on the lookout for that so that you can start preparing for retirement, because in as much as you're looking forward to it, there are some aspects that you'll actually grieve about. And then by that meeting, I'll also share the calendar for the rest of the year, where we'll be looking at also the other financial or investment products that we did not do last year. Thank you very much for being here. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's always a pleasure to see you attend, because if you don't show up, I cannot do this. So keep well. Let's apply what we learn. Let's continue engaging. For those who are still making decisions about when they'll do their financial plan, please make a step. It might just be making that call and getting to know how we can start this. With those many remarks, I would want us to close here. Wish you a good evening. Over to you, Nova.
Okay, thank you, Ruth, for the very insightful session. We can now pray. Let's pray. Lord, we are grateful for the time that we've had through this session, Lord. We've been able to get to learn a lot. It was very informative, very insightful, even as we start off the new year, thinking about whether to have resolutions or not. Lord, I pray that you will help us even as we get to set our goals, to set our objectives. I pray that you will help us to be able to know the best way to achieve these goals. We are thankful for Rose. Thing that's been able to give us, that she does this so often. We pray, Lord the Father, that you will bless her even in excess of the help that she gives. And I pray for each and every person who is here, for all that has been taught here, bit about resolutions, bit about setting goals, bit about reviewing our lives and our goals. I pray that you would help us be able to apply this in our lives, so that this information will be useful to us in our lives going forward, be it in our careers, in our finances, in our relationships, in each and every sphere of our lives. Help us be able to apply this. I pray that even as we start off the year, you will be with us through the rest of this year in all these things that we have set out to do, Lord. I pray that you will establish them. I pray this, trusting and believing in Jesus' holy and mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much.